Hey y'all, welcome again to another meal prep therapy session. So today we're doing something a little bit different, and we're going to keep with the low carb theme and also do some curries as a shout out to my Jamaican roots. We'll be doing that. And if you see this really weird thing, this is actually celery root. And so it has a similar consistency of a potato without the as much starch. So we are going to do kind of a lamb curry stew. And this will be slash shepherd's pie, I guess. So this will be our base for that. Kind of a mash. I also have butternut squash. This is steamable. I have hearts of palm pasta just because I live a pretty low carb life. So we're going to make a carbonara with this. You are welcome to use regular pasta linguine as well for this, okay? I also have boneless center cut pork loin chops because we're going to do, I'm thinking an herb encrusted pork chop. Actually, scratch that. We're not going to do the pork chop this week. We'll do that next week. But we are going to do the fish curry, which I've already marinated, and then some hot dogs as well. So we're doing lamb stew, a fish curry, and we'll also do Brussels sprout tots to do hot dogs with. So I always like to do like one kind of kid meal, quote unquote, because I think it's just a nice reminder to, stay in touch with our inner child. So we will do that as well. Now, for the fish, I actually marinated this for like 5 hours. So in here we have lemon juice. We also have cilantro. We have chili powder. And I believe I also put some turmeric in it. So you'll want to do that over a certain amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that since that's mostly already done. So we are going to preheat the oven and start making the sauce for this. So put this on 375. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this in a pan. So for this, you can use rice, you can use, I'm actually going to make it into tacos. So I'll use like lettuce cups, but you can use whatever makes sense for you. So I have I believe this is tilapia, fish patties. The oven is preheating. And then we're going to go ahead and make the sauce. So for the sauce, we will want to use oil, turmeric, chili powder, garlic, and cilantro, and coconut milk as well. So let me get my coconut milk. We'll start there. I really like coconut milk for coconut rice. If you're into that, I would recommend, you mixing it with rice. You can also add the cilantro. I have some cilantro already cut up. This is my can of coconut milk. I'm just going to go ahead and use the fish bowl. I'm going to put the cilantro. I already had some cilantro from me previously chopping for the marinade. I'm just going to put the remaining there. Take off a couple cloves of garlic. So I hope you all enjoyed our Black History theme this month for meal prep. Today's food is not directly um, Black or African American, but the curry and the spices do have a lot of African influences, as well as Caribbean influences. So, the idea of Blackness is, it's the whole African diaspora. So to highlight every aspect of Black culture would be impossible within a month. But I encourage you to try to find a way to honor that in your life as much as you can, whether you're Black or not. Understanding cultural influences, and we will highlight a certain a certain group of people and culture and aspects of culture every month. But I think it's so important to just appreciate the richness that our backgrounds bring to us, right? And the backgrounds of others in our lives and others that we don't know. So I welcome any suggestions for recipes, or if there are any kind of different ethnic foods you want me to maybe highlight, please feel free to share. So I'm just chopping up garlic here. I use so much garlic that it's kind of second nature to me to peel and chop, but you can always use a food processor as well for this. Actually, we will probably need 2 garlics today because each one of our recipes requires garlic. So I will get another garlic. You'll also want quite a bit of onion. I have a sweet onion and a red onion, and I have cucumber as well. I'm also going to go ahead, when I'm thinking about it, and do my snack prep. So I have 2 more of those. To me, cooking is a lot like cleaning in that it can kind of be a meditative practice, Once you get into the groove of it, it's not a lot to think about. You still have to pay attention to what you're doing, but it's not a ton of things to think about within that process. So I'm going to boil the eggs. I'm also going to take 1 egg out because we need that for... I'm also going to take out mushrooms, so get a couple more items out. Celery. And when I looked in my refrigerator, I realized that we actually had some leftover spaghetti squash from last week. I'm going to go ahead and take that out as well. We'll probably put that with the hearts of prawn pasta. And hey, maybe that'll make it into 3. I think I had enough for 2 serving sizes, but we may have 3 with that leftover. So I'm just chopping up the celery for my snack prep for the week. And I like to use the ends kind of as an herb, especially when I'm doing soups and stews, so I'm going to leave that there. Anything else? These 3. That's 3 snacks. I'll think about next month maybe switching up the snacks options. These just seem really easy for me in that I tend to always have celery and cucumber in my refrigerator. So it's easy for me to just grab it and keep stock of it. I also always have nuts because I like to use those as garnishes. But if you all have any ideas for other snacks that we should consider, feel free to let us know. Or let us know what snacks you eat on a regular basis. For celery, I love to have it with peanut butter or like a cream cheese. So I'm trying to be a little bit more fancy. So there we go. Cucumber. I know I usually talk a lot in these videos, but I'm kind of in a contemplative state today. And kind of reflecting on things that I've done within my life, relationships. Sometimes for me, cooking just gives me a space to really look at myself, but not as harshly, right? Because my focus is ultimately on making sure that I'm not cutting, myself, hurting myself, or burning myself. So there's the safety within the kitchen and making sure I'm paying attention. But I feel when I'm cooking and when I'm doing something that I really enjoy, it's a lot easier for me to be kind to myself. I'm not as critical because I'm more relaxed. And I wonder, kind of, if we ever think about that, how do we set the stage to have conversations with ourselves? I think about this a lot when I have difficult conversations to have with people, right? Like, you want to make sure that people feel comfortable and that it's not already a stressful time for them, if you can avoid it. But, okay, just this for the sauce, okay. Sometimes we also wonder, I just wonder about how do we do that for ourselves too, So, and, how do we set the stage for that? When is the best time for us to really have a difficult conversation with ourselves? And I think today, for me, it was just, I ended up being in a contemplative mode, and I really just wanted to sit back and take stock of things. And so here I am, so I'm with y'all, and I'm thinking too. So for this, because I only have like 2 servings, I'm only going to use like half a can of coconut milk. I'm going to mix it with the garlic and cilantro, as well as with lime juice. I'm going to put turmeric in it, some garam masala, which is an Indian spice. I'm going to put the rest of the coconut milk for when I make my coconut rice. In a container, So I wonder, is there anything that you've been meaning to talk to yourself about, maybe haven't had the time to, or have been kind of afraid to maybe face? And can you take the time? Now, you might be cooking with other people right now, so maybe you can't do it right now. But if you are by yourself, What's stopping you from thinking about that? You know? And I get it, you may say, well, I'm also trying to watch this video and figure out this recipe, so that's taking a toll, but maybe it's in the moments when I'm silent as well, right? When we know what we're already doing here. So I'm going to add a couple of tomatoes as well. I don't see my tomatoes. Okay. Oh. I'm also going to add chili powder. So if you like it spicy, you can add a lot. If you don't add a lot. My turmeric and some olive oil as well. Maybe a teaspoon or so. I really like olive oil, so I'm going to put a bit more. What else did I say? Turmeric. Yes, turmeric. We can also start getting our saucepan heated up. If you don't already have fish in the oven, go ahead and put that in the oven. Actually, nuts. If I were to do this with the rice, I would add nuts, but since I'm doing it kind of as a taco, a curry taco, I'm not gonna add nuts to it. Oh, nice though. Sorry, my cat is being a little demanding right now. Okay, so my turmeric is... So I'm going to talk about the lamb curry because I'm not actually going to do that in this video because I recommend it marinates overnight and I just did that this morning. So I will do a short when I put that all together and upload it tomorrow. But turmeric, chili powder, cilantro, garlic, and coconut milk for the sauce, and some olive oil. But I can tell you for the lamb curry stew, I use lamb stew meat. I also use turmeric. I use some garam masala. And I used cinnamon sticks to give it kind of a sweetness and chili powder. So I feel like it has a good balance. And for me, that's the way I really like to cook. I like to have a balance of the seasonings and the flavors. So that's important to me. I have garam masala. A little bit of garam masala. Okay. Here we go. That is some garam masala. So, if you put your pan on a few moments ago, it's probably warm. I added some olive oil. Then you'll want to put some lime juice. You'll want that on low so it can simmer. It's actually a very pretty green. probably from the cilantro and the mix of the yellow with the turmeric. So. And this dish is actually going to be superfood packed in that we're going to use avocado. We already have garlic. We have coconut. We have so many diverse flavors, and this is actually a mix of two different influences here. So we have the taco piece, but then we also have the Indian piece. So, you know, I'm all for these infusions and not hybrid, I forget what they call it, but let that simmer for a little bit. And make sure you get all that sauce, because that sauce is delicious, okay? After you've mixed it pretty well, let it simmer. You can add tomato to this. I'm going to use tomato within the guac, so I'm not going to add it. Okay. Next thing. Okay, let's discuss the celery root, right? So, celery root. It's hard. It's weird shaped. So you can use a potato peeler to get the skin, but I prefer to just use a knife and just cut as close to the ends as I can. Especially since this is a big one, it would probably take me a while to peel it. But if you're saying, you know, you want to get really close to it, that works too. You'll also want to start a pot of water boiling. So let me get a pot together. Actually, I'm going to take the sauce, take that off the water because the fish is in the oven and essentially it's just going to simmer in that anyway. So. And basically, we're going to do a celery root mash, so we're just going to do it like we would a mashed potato. So if you want to use mashed potatoes, you are welcome to, or use potatoes, you are welcome to do that. Like I said, I tend to follow a very low-carb lifestyle, so I highly doubt you will see me making too many starchy meals, but it's something to consider. There are always adaptations that can be made to these recipes. It's really just knowing the texture of things. And I like to taste different flavors. So when I discovered celery root, it was actually from trying out a meal prep service. And I said, this tastes like mashed potatoes, but it's not actually mashed potatoes. And then I found out that it was actually celery root. And then I said, I found it and I said, well, what do I do with that? How do I cook that? So I learned a new way to make something different. And actually, I had never heard of celery root before a couple of months ago. So, you know, that just wasn't something we ate in my family. We ate potatoes, but celery root, I didn't know what that was. So you just want to cube these because they're going into the pot. But now that I do know, I'm so glad that I found it. And, you know, honestly, I like it better than potatoes. So, and I really have to do some research on if there are any health benefits to it. But, you know, I think often we shy away from the weird looking foods in the produce section, right? Because we don't really know what that is. And just because it looks weird doesn't mean it can't taste delicious. So here we are, nice and cubed. Put that in water. And like I said, I'm just gonna make this like I would a mashed potatoes. I'm just gonna let those get And actually, you know what? Instead of putting it in the pot, I think I'm gonna steam it because I can. Like, this can be steamed, so we're gonna do it steamed instead. And then I can have another burner available. So. I'm not going to have a lot of water in here because I'm going to add almond milk in a second. So I am going to have just a little bit of water because I don't want it to burn. If you have a steamer, you can use your steamer. I don't have a lot of space on my counter for my steamer, so I'm just going to put it in my Instapot. But there are several ways you can do this. You can do it the old-fashioned way. Put water in a pot, boil it, add some salt, cover it, let it boil until it's tender. You can steam it. You can put it in the Instapot. There are just so many ways to cook things nowadays. And so I always recommend finding the option that works best for you. If you said, hey, I got this Instapot and I hardly ever use it, and that used to be my thing. When I first started cooking, I got all these gadgets that I didn't know how to use. And I knew I wanted them for a specific purpose, but I didn't realize they can be used for something else. And that kind of just reminds me of ourselves, right? And our talents and who we are. We may know ourselves and our talents in one facet of life, but maybe there are other ways to tap into it, to utilize it. You're an entrepreneur. Often we tend to really be able to think creatively about those things. But even if you're not an entrepreneur, you can still look at, what am I good at? What are others around me good at? And how can we use that in a creative way to better the world around us? So just something to think about. So I'm going to steam this. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the carbonara. So we're going to need another pan for this. And I'm not going to use my cast iron skillet. Last time I did that, that was a mess. So I'm going to put olive oil in the pan. I'm going to slice my garlic. Also, I'm going to dice my onion. I like to saute all these things first before I do my noodles, but if you're doing regular noodles, I would suggest boiling another pot of water or steaming them so that they'll be nice and ready by the time we move on. Okay. So you can use a whole clove, you can use half. I think today for this I'm going to use half. Just because I kind of want to use whatever's kind of already in front of my face. So there we go. After this, we can go ahead and make the guacamole. And actually, I will definitely use 2 avocados. I didn't have lime juice for the sauce for the fish curry, but you have that, that's also a good thing to add too. So. I think I'll just use the rest. Actually, I have scallions. So you can use sweet onions, or if you have scallions, use scallions. I like to use scallions when I'm doing like a Italian or French dish, just because they're light. So they still have the onion flavor, but the consistency is much lighter, which I think, especially with a carbonara, is important. So you can also get your bacon if you're doing a bacon carbonara, or chicken if you're using grilled chicken. I have leftover bacon, so I am going to use my leftover bacon. You always want, especially with meats, you always want to usually cook those first because those usually take the longest to cook. So if you're doing, unless you're doing like pasta and potatoes and things, I always suggest start with the meats, then start your vegetables. Last thing you want to do are vegetables that you know don't take a lot of time to cook. And most of the vegetables we use don't take a lot of time to cook. So they can go in last. I'm just trying to chop down these pieces. Because these are kind of thicker chunks, I don't think I'll be able to get them to tiny carbonara pieces, but they'll probably have more of a pancetta feel. And because this is bacon, you probably don't need a lot of oil since the bacon's going to create its own fat anyway. But you can add some if you'd like. I like to add it for the garlic piece. So I just think garlic and olive oil is just an amazing pairing. So I'm going to add just a teaspoon of it, but you really don't need it because the meat, its fat is going to render on oil when it melts down. So I think about just cooking today and how my head's been heavy, my heart's been heavy. My prayers go out to the folks, Russia and Ukraine, and knowing all that's going on in the world. And this is where, like I said, cooking can be a very meditative